Flag is down. McCarthy taking a shot downfield. It's going to be intercepted. Mentioned the flag was down. McCarthy thought he had a free play. Xavier Watts was back there for the pick.
Good morning, Packers Nation. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. We are live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, and powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. My name is Andy Herman. That was JJ McCarthy making another mistake on Sunday Night Football, courtesy of NBC. It was a rough game for Minnesota. We'll talk about that momentarily. We've got Steve Peratch joining us from the Pack-A-Day podcast at around 8:20 a.m. today. Make sure you're sticking around for that. Also, would love for you to join the show. Nicolay Law Fan Talking text line 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250. You can also join us over on YouTube, where we've got some comments coming in already. So we will get to those throughout the course of today's show. I want to start, though, with some injury updates because we've got some Packers injury news, and we've also got some news from around the NFL when it comes to some pretty significant injuries. From a Packers standpoint, they practiced yesterday. There were 4 players who did not practice. I would say overall, this is pretty good news that there's no new injuries that we didn't know about. One of them was Jaden Reed, who we know is going to be out for the next couple of months anyway. So that's really just a fact that they haven't put him on injured reserve yet, which will open up a roster spot. They already have one spot available from Brenton Cox. So they do have a little bit of roster logistics to be able to do if they want to over the course of the next week or so, to add a couple players to the 53 if they want. They don't really need to. They have the requisite players to put together their 48-man roster and can still call up players from the practice squad if they want. But for right now, they do have those spots if needed. But Jaden Reed did not practice. The other 3, Bo Melton, Zach Tom, and Aaron Banks. So Zach Tom and Aaron Banks remain not practicing, which certainly is noteworthy on the offensive line. Of course, last week, Jordan Morgan filled in at left guard. Anthony Belton was the primary right tackle, although Darian Kennard did play a few series as well. And then Bo Melton certainly affecting Green Bay quite a bit on special teams. Also, we have not yet actually seen him on defense in a regular season game, but of course affects their depth at corner as well. So 4 Packers injuries to monitor right now as Green Bay gets ready for Cleveland this upcoming Sunday. Again, Jaden Reed, Bo Melton, Zach Tom, and Aaron Banks, which is really 3 because, again, we already know Jaden Reed's going to be out for a while. Meanwhile, the litany of injuries that came out yesterday from an NFL standpoint was a pretty crazy list. The biggest, of course, was Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to be out a significant period of time, will absolutely be out for Green Bay's game against Cincinnati coming up after the bye week in week 6. So that will be, as of right now, Jake Browning versus Jordan Love, and will not be a kind of marquee matchup between Burrow and Love, but devastating for Cincinnati. I know that they're calling around for quarterbacks. There are reports that they did call about Malik Willis. We'll see what comes of that. I can tell you right now, probably nothing. And we'll talk about some potential trades a little bit at the end of today's show as well, because I have some thoughts on what they should do in the trade market right now when it comes to players like Malik Willis, Romeo Doubs, etc. But the big news here for Cincinnati, Joe Burrow out for a extended period of time, potentially even the season. But if he does come back, it is likely going to be very late in the year. They do start 2-0. The AFC is insanely strong. They will have the ability to maybe stay afloat with Browning in the meantime. And if they can, maybe there's hope that for the last month of the season, Burrow can come back, play, get his feet back underneath him, and maybe make a run in the playoffs. But still a devastating blow for Cincinnati. Meanwhile, Jaden Daniels is a bit banged up after that Packers game, after getting hit like 1,000 times by the Packers defense. Unknown if he is going to be able to play this week or not. So if you've got Jaden Daniels in fantasy, certainly be aware of that. If you're just looking at the Commanders and how they're going to potentially play this week, obviously Jaden Daniels' presence is a huge factor in their offense. Marcus Mariota, the backup there. For Minnesota, JJ McCarthy, who has not exactly been stellar through 2 weeks so far. He has a high ankle sprain and is going to be out for about 2 to 6 weeks. That will certainly affect Minnesota for better or worse. Carson Wentz is the backup there, and he will take over in the meantime. Meanwhile, Aaron Jones, obviously their starting running back, will be out at least a week with an injury as well. So they are a little bit beat up in Minnesota at the moment. And then Jalen Johnson, Chicago's star corner, one of the players that they can actually lean on in a pretty significant way for his contributions. He is out for the season as well. So Green Bay will not see Jalen Johnson at any point this year. Tommy, I think it goes without saying, welcome in, first of all, by the way, but I think it goes without saying, regardless of who you're playing against, what teams out there, the players, etc., injuries freaking suck.
Yeah, for sure. And especially when we are in the NFL right now, where it feels like quarterback play kind of not up to par with what we've seen in the past, and you lose one of the top 5 at worst in the league on top of that, and another one who's probably in that top 10 conversation in jeopardy. It's not the product you want to see out of the NFL, Andy.
No, it's not. And I mean, this is every year, right? We're used to, unfortunately, seeing these injuries and they pile up. And, it's why some of the Malik Willis conversation ends up like, you're going to need probably a backup quarterback at some point this season. It just happens. I mean, like last year, it was over half the league needed a backup at some point in the season last year, of course, including Green Bay. But yeah, it is a bummer when you have like on paper, you see these matchups going into the season. You're like, oh, Bengals and Packers. It's actually one that I'm going to as a fan. I'm going to go to that one in the stands. I was really looking forward to seeing this matchup, seeing Joe Burrow. Now, it goes without saying that it certainly makes that matchup easier for Green Bay, but I don't think anyone's looking for, injury handouts. You want to go out and beat the best teams by being the best. And in this situation with Joe Burrow being out, it's a real bummer that you don't get to see that matchup. So it's always a bummer for the NFL. Of course, again, Green Bay is going to have injuries as well. And I'm sure going to have some injuries in that game that affect them too. And you have to work your way through it. But it's why depth is king in the NFL, because through a 17-game season and the amount of injuries that you're going to go through the course of a year, you better have capable backups that can come in and play pretty much everywhere. And I do think it is one of the strengths of this Green Bay team is that they do have depth. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that have 5 solid offensive linemen that can play the way that Green Bay did this past game, even with their starting 5 up front. And to be able to have, Anthony Belton, Jordan Morgan, and even Darian Kennard come in that game and play and help out and still be the big thing I always look for is when you have backup offensive linemen in is, do you have to change your offense in any way? Is it a significant change where, you can't run certain things, or you always have to help the right tackle, or whatever it may be? Do you have to change it? Or is that guy just getting beat constantly, right? We've seen that in the past as well with some of the backups that Green Bay's had, where it's just like, you can't do anything. You can't run, you can't pass. It's just a turnstile up front. And their best player is going to be over your worst player, and just good luck. And I thought they held up more than admirably this past week. Were able to get the win, didn't have to change the offense all that much. And that usually is the sign of good depth. And I think Green Bay has that pretty much all throughout their roster.
Right. And especially, I mean, more so than most at the quarterback position too, right? And we've seen Jordan Love get banged up in the past. Didn't miss extended time, really, but the luxury of the backup quarterback that Green Bay had and made that move last season to shore up that position proved to be really smart from Brian Gutekunst. Maybe saved the season last year. Deshaun Clifford win those 2 games, 2.5 games that Malik Willis comes in? I don't think so either, Andy. So I think the rest of the NFL could learn something from Green Bay on, hey, maybe give up a late round pick for a guy that you can see people giving up on. I mean, look at Danny Jones right now. I mean, he was the backup all last year in Minnesota. Minnesota could have just went and rode with him instead of having to deal with J.J. McCarthy for the first 2 weeks, and it's all pandemonium. And the Colts, everyone's wondering if they're a good team or not now, Andy.
It's crazy. I mean, the biggest market efficiency right now in the NFL is finding a jettisoned top draft pick at quarterback and giving them a medium-sized-ish deal and letting them thrive on team 2. I mean, you look throughout the NFL, whether it's Sam Darnold, who is, on his like 4th or 5th team or whatever, but former first-round pick who is now having a lot of success, obviously in Minnesota and now in Seattle. I know this is not the right time to be talking about Geno Smith after the game he played last night, but Geno Smith was a heck of a reclamation project, going from a completely, given up on player to a real solid, legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is a, 1A example of, I still can't believe, by the way, Carolina had both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield on the roster at the same time and screwed up both of those things. But that's another example of a number 1 overall pick that doesn't work out, that he finally finds his right home in Tampa Bay and looks like, again, to me, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Daniel Jones, as you brought up yesterday, we can go on and on there are quarterbacks all over the league right now that are on their second or maybe even third or even fourth team that were former first picks that just didn't pan out. I mean, Malik Willis to a lesser extent, third round pick, right?
Right.
That
Well, Andy, I mean, like this has been around for a long time,
Yes.
right? Too like Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Steve Young, like keep going back on this list. Like this is not a recipe that is a secret by any means, except a lot of people still neglect to do it. And Brian Gutekunst last year, to have that gusto to go after Malik Willis, like that was a weird move when it happened. And then it just so happened he made it at the exact right, perfect time on top of it. And now, you know, I don't know what the reports are really saying about how much they're trying to get in return for Malik Willis, but just feels like invaluable right now at what Green Bay has, at the depth across this lineup and especially at the quarterback position.
No, I couldn't agree more. You're listening to the Pack a Day radio show live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Meanwhile, we have now 2 weeks of information to kind of see where things stand in the NFC North so far. That win against Detroit already feels really, really important just because it really, truly feels like it is Green Bay and Detroit in the NFC North and that it will be down to those two teams. And having that win, I know right now it's a tiebreaker. Ultimately, if you have to kind of get that win in Thursday Night Football against Detroit, in Thanksgiving on Thursday, when they play Detroit in Detroit, you have to get that one too to have the tiebreaker. Otherwise, you just it breaks even or whatever. But man, it feels really important to have that win already in hand against Detroit because again, it very much feels like it's going to be those two teams as far as Minnesota and Chicago goes. I want to start with Minnesota. We already talked about the injuries to McCarthy and to Aaron Jones. Not having Christian Darrisaw right now is really affecting that team at left tackle, not to mention Jordan Addison being out. They're definitely struggling along the offensive line. TJ Hawkinson has not looked anywhere near the same. I don't know if anyone saw that somebody posted a video on Twitter of him running like a little in route, and it's like just comical of like what he's doing at the top of the route and trying to I don't know, he just looks like 3 steps slower. And this defense, this Brian Flores vaunted defense, has not looked anywhere near as intimidating so far. And you just end up with a Minnesota team right now, and specifically at the quarterback position, that just doesn't look ready. And for all the talk, and I'll be the first one to admit, like I was right there too. I'm like, JJ McCarthy's going into an unbelievable situation. He's got, Justin Jefferson at wide receiver. The offensive line seems solid. They brought in Will Fries and, Ryan Kelly to kind of solidify that group. They still got Aaron Jones in the backfield, Hawkinson, Addison, etc. And with, what I think is Kevin O'Connell, a very smart play caller and play designer, the quarterback's coach, and Josh McCown, who's extremely well thought of. I thought he was going to be in a wonderful position to maybe not go out and be like a Pro Bowl quarterback, but certainly manage the game similar to what we saw from Sam Darnold a season ago. If you would have said he had a similar season to Darnold, I would have been like, yeah, that's probably what I kind of expect going into the year. And he just has not looked ready at all. 7 brutal quarters of football and 1 Cinderella quarter against a bad Chicago Bears defense last week in the fourth quarter, which now just looks more embarrassing for Chicago than it does impressive for JJ McCarthy. That is a rough situation for them. And as bad as Minnesota is right now, Chicago lost to them and then got boat raced by Detroit and had 50 plus points put up on them. Now just lost Jalen Johnson for the season. Caleb Williams has not looked to take a significant step so far. There are little signs here and there that there are some things that he's worked on and might be a little bit better on, but it's kind of the same Caleb that we saw from a season ago. And despite all of the additions on the offensive line and defensive line that they've tried to put together, it has not amounted to anything so far. I don't expect that they're going to be like a 4-win team or something, but both of these teams right now could not have had a worse start to the season.
I completely agree. And especially when you have both organizations thinking that they are taking directions, like they're taking steps in the right direction, right? I mean, the Bears, we know this already, that the offseason is always like Bears are defending champs every year as far as NFL off seasons go. But it felt a little different this year where they tried to shore up the offensive line. They gave up a lot. They drafted wide receiver early in this draft again at the beginning of day 2 with Luther Burden. They invested at that position with Roma Dunze the year before. They've brought in DeAndre Swift. Like this whole team. And Ryan Poles has not drafted a Pro Bowler. That's like, it's insane to say it out loud. I mean, this is.
You just got an extension, though. So
yes,
he's good to go.
He just got an extension.
Give him another. Give him another.
Right. It's like, They're just doing the same thing over and over again. And anyone who had the argument of Ben Johnson, was everything in Detroit, like the Lions sent a message last week on how wrong that was. And I understand they put up 21 points, but they looked awful. And Minnesota, like I can't believe I'd rather be a Bears fan right now. I seriously would. As far as what situation I think is going to work out better, I still have some belief that maybe Caleb Williams could work out. And I understand that he has a little bit of a problem holding on to the football a little bit, but he does extend plays and he does have a natural ability that I think makes him better when he can extend plays. JJ McCarthy, like, oh my gosh, that would be just so stressful to watch every single week. Him figuring it out on the fly, it feels like all the time. They got Aaron Jones is getting way more reps than their better running back in Jordan Mason. It feels like right now they can't get the ball to their best player on the team. They're missing their second best wide receiver for another week. Like, I just think that Minnesota feels like a dumpster fire this year. And the Bears, like, just want to be known as, hey, we're a dumpster fire too. Don't forget about us, like, the entire time.
The interesting thing is in Minnesota is going to be what if Wentz is way better? What if, like you said, Jordan Mason just looks really good, sans Aaron Jones? Like, they're going to have some interesting decisions there if that does end up being the case, and what they kind of do with McCarthy when he comes back, and how they kind of, Aaron Jones will still have a utilization, but if it's Jordan Mason, that is the one that, again, just kind of looks better in that situation, how that looks as well. Speaking of the injuries, you now have a Minnesota-Cincinnati game this week that is now Carson Wentz versus Jake Browning at quarterback. So that game has a totally different connotation to it. We'll see if Minnesota can pick up the win there. Meanwhile, Chicago has Dallas at home. Chicago and Minnesota actually favored in both of those games right now per the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Vikings -3.5, Bears -1.5. So we'll see if they can actually pick up those wins or not. It's not exactly, again, like they have the hardest opponents in the world. Dallas does not look good through 2 weeks. We really should probably be 0-2 right now. And then, with Cincinnati, they're 2-0, but again, without Joe Burrow. So be interested. The reason I bring this up, and the reason to me that this is a big topic of conversation for the Green Bay Packers, is because going into this season, to me, the two biggest mysteries, wild cards, lottery tickets, whatever you want to call it, were JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams. And I'm not talking in the NFC North. I'm talking potentially in the entire NFL. For Minnesota, we saw that, by all accounts, that roster was ready to compete at everything if the quarterback hits, right? We saw last year with Sam Darnold, like they were still a really good team in the regular season. And yeah, I still think if they get Christian Darrisaw and Jordan Addison back, I think that team looks really solid on paper outside of quarterback, and you just didn't know it. And if McCarthy all of a sudden comes out and he's just playing even better than Sam Darnold was last year, that's a ridiculous team to compete against. Not to mention that adds a unbelievable quarterback to the NFC North for the foreseeable future. And if he misses, Minnesota is just in total no man's land, where they've built out this entire roster to win now and have a quarterback that's completely incapable of winning now. It completely changes both the short and long term in the NFC North. And for Chicago, it's semi-similar. Again, you get this fresh coat of paint. It's going to be the new boy genius at head coach. And, they bring in the offensive line and defensive line. It seems like they built it a little bit, more the right way by building in the trenches. But it ultimately comes down to, can Caleb Williams play the game the way that Ben Johnson needs it to be played within that offense? And if he can't, again, it feels like much ado about nothing in Chicago, and it's going to be the same story again. And so far, that's sort of been the case. He has not been able to run that offense consistently. And again, if all of a sudden Caleb Williams, first pick in the NFL, tank for Caleb, the guy that was supposed to be the greatest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, if he ends up being that, how does that change Chicago, both now and again in the long term in the NFC North? And so far, from a Packers perspective, JJ McCarthy has been way under what anyone could have expected. I think at this point, he's been way worse. And I think Caleb Williams basically, again, looks like the same version of what we saw for the most part in 2024. For any fear or trepidation of we could end up with two of the next big quarterbacks in the NFC North, it certainly does not feel that way right now.
No, it does not. And I think that what you have to do is now realize, thank you, Green Bay Packers, for being the best team to ever complete a rebuild without knowing a rebuild is being completed when you have organizations like Detroit, who had to go through decades of sadness, the Bears, who are in the process of going through decades of sadness, and Minnesota, who's just so convinced on trying to be mediocre as long as they can so they can stay relevant and have a year where maybe they break out and pop out too. This is a team that lost Aaron Rodgers, 2.5, 3 years ago and didn't make the playoffs because they were knocked out by Detroit the final game of the year. While they were rebuilding and getting a brand new quarterback into their system, they just casually went to the playoffs, made the playoffs both seasons, won a playoff game, should have won another one probably, played the most competitive against the Super Bowl champion of anyone else last year, and now have quickly risen to maybe the top of the NFL.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. And I think the funny thing to this day is that Green Bay has shown for like 3 decades, or at least 2 decades now, of like, hey, here's the blueprint for how you develop quarterbacks. Like, you let them sit for a few years, ideally but behind a really good starter. And not everyone has that immediately, but you let them sit and develop and grow and mature. And then once they're ready, you get them ready to go in. And even when a team like the Falcons says like, yep, we're going to do the Green Bay model, it's like, oh, in his rookie year, he's already starting by the end of the year in Michael Penix. So not a single team has really been able to kind of follow in their footsteps, despite them putting the blueprint together so perfectly for a couple decades now. Like, this is how you do it. And everyone's just like, nah, we're just going to put them in there right away. And we think that they're going to be ready to play. It's really, really difficult. It's the hardest position to play, most important position to play in all of sports, in my opinion. And most quarterbacks are not ready when they get thrown into the fire. And it's why we go back to our initial conversation of like, it's why so many of these quarterbacks succeed in their second or third spot, because now they've had a little bit more time to marinate and kind of figure out how the NFL works and work on their mechanics more. And all of a sudden, year 5, 6, 7, they look like a more complete, competent quarterback than they did when they were thrown to the wolves early on in their career. Again, it's a very big market efficiency if you can figure out ways to get those quarterbacks in after they've quote unquote busted in a different area. And now you have them in probably what's more of like the prime of their career on a much cheaper deal with no expectations in contract number 2 or 3. We've got a lot more to get to. Steve Peratch coming up here in just a moment. Reminder that Football Talk on the Fan is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday, plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. We are 62 and fair in Milwaukee, high of 76, low of 59. Beautiful day today. We'll be back with Steve Peratch as the Pack-A-Day radio show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back to the Pack a Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reminder that the Mason Crosby Show is coming up next from 9 to 11. Also, you can join Wisconsin Sports Daily and Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the road at the Brat House in Shorewood this afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. Brought to you by Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Make sure you're checking both of those out. Right now, joining us on the Fan Guest Hotline by Gruber Law is Steve Peratch, Pack a Day Podcast. You can find him on social media at Steve Peratch. Steve, how you doing, my friend?
Good. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, I am wonderful. It is a great time to be a Green Bay Packers fan. And actually, I want to get your thoughts on this clip from Andrew Brandt. It was a couple weeks ago, but I think it's even more apropos today. So Tommy's going to play it. I want to get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
You guys, you Packers fans, I love you. You people. I'm going to say, I grew up spending summers in Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin. I love everything you stand for. Can you imagine being a Packers fan? Like, you're so taken care of. You're everything's always, even when it's not, it still is, because the headline is, if you were born in the mid 80s when you were a baby, you've never been a Packers fan without at least a Hall of Fame quarterback, and then whatever this version of Jordan Love is, and we already know that. But then every once in a while, the Packers they give you this little bonus. They hit you with a little fan dividend. Be like, you know what? We'll give you Reggie White. We'll give you Charles Woodson. We'll give you Micah Parsons out of nowhere. It's like this gift that you get. You guys have it so good. It's cold out there in them streets for other fans. You have no idea what it's like to stand around a barrel fire with fingerless gloves, just trying to stay warm. You're in your penthouse all the time. And if I sound like I'm jealous of you, I am. And everyone should be. You're so privileged. You're the trust fund fans. Everything is taken care of. You're so wonderful and so lucky and so great. There's a convertible in the driveway when you turn 16. It's just the life you people live. And I'm happy for you, but I'm also very jealous of you. Once again, Packers fans just find a winning lottery ticket in their pocket. It's amazing.
That was Kyle Brandt of the NFL Network, not Andrew Brandt. My apologies for that. Steve, how privileged are Green Bay Packers fans?
I mean, he's not wrong. I can't argue. The one thing you point to is they only the Super Bowl wins. Obviously, right. Tom Brady skews that, and the Patriots skew that to the point of, if that doesn't exist, then maybe the Packers are happy, and they're due for a Super Bowl win. But yeah, it's not a bad thing to be a Packers fan, man. I lived in Chicago for 6 years. I've got several fans who are Bears fans, or friends who are Bears fans, and the amount of struggle and pain that they go through year after year. And I mean, granted, the Lions are doing good now, but I mean, I have one of my good friends, Dave, was one of my roommates in college. He eternally was just miserable being a Lions fan. And so, yeah, I think the Packers, we are spoiled as the fans, because most years we have a higher quality product than most of the other teams. And it's, but yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I have a friend who's a very close friend who's a Bears fan as well. And he's like, I don't think you understand we are living different livelihoods as NFL fans. He's like, I literally can't enjoy the NFL anymore. He's like, it's the same thing every week. We lose every single time. We get so excited in the offseason if something new is going to happen, and then it completely blows up in our face. And it's like, it's not even fun to watch the other teams, because you already know your team lost at noon every single Sunday. And here you guys have Micah Parsons and another quarterback, and you're now the best team in the league. He's like, it's not fair. He's like, and here's his text to me the other day. So I messaged him the Jalen Johnson news that Jalen Johnson is going to be out for the year. And he just said, all that matters is Ben and Caleb are the right guys. All that matters is Ben and Caleb are the right guys. All that matters is Ben and Caleb are the right guys. And he said, I'm going to just keep repeating it to myself. It's a breathing exercise until I just get it down. And he's just trying to latch on to something at this point that he can hang on to, that there's some branch of hope there. Yeah. And to your point, Steve, we have had our share of stab you in the back, just gut-wrenching playoff losses to an extent that maybe no fan base should ever have to go through. We don't need to name them. Everyone knows them. But yes, from a overall standpoint of what we get to enjoy week in and week out through the course of season after season, I think privileged is probably a right word.
Definitely.
As we kind of look at this team right now, and with it being a team that now you're starting to see the power rankings come out, and Green Bay is atop a lot of the lists already, what have been your takeaways from the season, Steve, as you've kind of watched these first 2 weeks and kind of had the opportunity to digest it a little bit?
obviously with Micah Parsons being added, that's a huge thing. But to me, the thing that's been the biggest takeaway is the defense. And I've said it on the podcast. I jumped on a couple other radio shows, and violence. That is the word that comes to mind when it comes to this defense. And it is something that you have not seen from a Packers defense maybe since the Super Bowl years, like with Reggie. Like that team was like, they just get after the ball. They get to what, like in years past, it was like, oh, missed a tackle, oh, going for 15 yards. Now it's, oh, missed a tackle, there's 7 other guys right there to make that tackle. Yeah. And just something we're not used to seeing. And it's really cool to see Jeff Hafley have all the tools in his tool belt that he can just go and make and have fun. Like, it's got to be so much fun for that guy to be able to, like, what am I going to cook up today? Like this week, all right, he does this. And like you saw the difference in the defense when Jaden Daniels was a quarterback as opposed to Jared Goff. It wasn't as much, of the blitzing. It was much more trying to get home with 4, stay in your lanes, and not have him get outside the pocket and attack you. And so I'm excited. Like, I don't think this was just a blip on the radar of like, oh, people will figure out the Packers defense. Like, no, I think this is the Packers defense. So you've seen that. You've seen some growth from the offense. Like, they're struggling a little bit with the run game, and they're just continually finding ways to score. And Jordan Love's doing his thing. To me, like, it can only go up from here.
When Jeff Hafley signed, it's like he got to be the chef of like a nice, like 3, maybe 4-star like restaurant. Mm-hmm. It's like things are good, and then it's like, that we're actually going to remake some things, remodel the interior. Here's some caviar, some fine cut steaks. Like, here's some truffle mushrooms. Like, you go do whatever you want. And now he's like a Michelin star chef with all the ingredients that he's got to work with. So it has been a joy to watch what he is cooking up literally every single week on defense. I don't know what you do on. I mean, Washington had tested him with everything. Deep down the field, intermediate, short, outside, running the ball. Jaden Daniels scrambling. Like, they've got a lot of ways to challenge you. And Green Bay had answers to literally every single thing that Washington tried. It's been really exciting to see so far. As we're talking here with Steve Peratch, Pack a Day Podcast. You can find him on social media at Steve Peratch. As we get ready for Packers Browns Week 3, what are you looking for in this matchup? As to hopefully Green Bay can just kind of take care of business and not have this be one of those games where it's like fourth quarter and the Browns are still hanging around and you're like, can you guys just put this team away? What do they need to do to go in here and get this win?
I think consistency is the key. Is not, like you said, don't overthink it. Don't be like, oh, well, they just got curb stomped by the Ravens. Like, well, this will be a cakewalk. Like, you can't take any team in the NFL lightly. We've all seen the crazy times where the worst team has beaten like one of the best teams, and it's just like, how did that happen? Because they let them hang around, and they were making unforced errors and things. So to me, this team just needs to continue doing what they're doing. Spread the ball around on offense. It's crazy to say that Joe Flacco can still sling the ball around, but I mean, he can. He's still got the arm. He's still got that arm talent, and they've got some weapons on the outside with Jerry Jeudy. I know the rookie running back is getting ramped up, Judkins, and so I mean, it was some garbage time yards, but he put up like 60, I think, last week, 61
on minimal carries. Yep.
Yeah, and so he only played like 19 snaps. So that's something to watch out for, because he was very highly talented and came out, I think, early, first pick of the second round. So it's something to watch for there. But I mean, as long as the Packers do what they've been doing the first 2 weeks, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I think so too. To me, turnovers just can't allow Cleveland to stay in this game because of your own self-inflicted wounds and mistakes. To me, if this is a neutral turnover, if it's either 1-1, 0-0, whatever it might be, if it's neutral in the turnover margins, that's a game Green Bay wins like 95, 97 times out of 100. And if they win the turnover battle, it probably, to me, is the game they win 100 times out of 100. So you can't have those. You can't have dumb special teams. Like, you can't allow returns for touchdowns or things like that. It's going to take something like that in order for this game to swing in Cleveland's favor. So just got to really be making sure that you're taking care of those couple things. And of course, that Myles Garrett's not wrecking shop as well, which is sometimes easier said than done. As you look at this Packers team in total through a first couple weeks, what to you needs to get better? We've seen a very impressive team so far, but there's always room for growth. What needs to improve going into week 3?
So we got this question, I think, on the podcast last week, and we were all being very nitpicky because it's a very hard to come up with something that that this team really thoroughly needs to improve on, because the first 2 weeks they've been so good. And the thing that I've seen, I want to see some better ball placement from Jordan Love. Don't get me wrong, he's thrown some dimes, like that ball to Jaden Reed that broke his collarbone. Like, yep, that was an absolute dime. But there are throws that he's had some wide receivers that are wide open, that if he just puts a little extra oomph on it, if he just leads them a little bit more, like that's a bigger play. Like the play to Tucker Kraft, 65 yards, whatever that was, he still had to stop for the ball. And that's the kind of thing that, like, and then you get to those throws to Matthew Golden. Like, those are the ones that a little extra air into the ball. And I'm not freaking out, because obviously Jordan Love's a very talented player, and he's just got Golden onto the team. And, you know, he missed some training camps, so that's why they maybe are not fully on the same page. And I expect them to be at some point. And maybe he just doesn't fully get how fast he is. But like, those plays are there, and Jordan Love just needs to be a tick better. And then all of a sudden we go from 27 points to 45 points. And so again, very nitpicky, but there's definitely some balls that Jordan Love could improve placement on that would really, I think, help grow the offense even more.
Adam Block in the chat said chemistry with Golden, which is kind of what you're saying here as well. And then run blocking he mentioned as well, which again, I think is something that can help out Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs is going to get those 100-yard games through the course of the season. And again, once that run game gets cooking too, I think this offense is going to take off at an even higher level. We'll see if they can do that this week against Cleveland. On the flip side, as again, we're being joined by Steve Peratch, Pack a Day Podcast. Find him on social media at Steve Peratch. What are you irrationally excited about that you are ready to crown or are ready to celebrate, even though we are only 2 weeks in? What are you can't get out of your head, is living rent free in your head with how good it is so far?
Maybe it's more like not how good it is, but just the potential of just seeing Matthew Golden like flying around the field. Now with Jaden Reed being out, I'm curious if he's going to get even more playing time, if they might move him into that role. But honestly, like, I'm excited for this offense, like that. And then the fact of Christian Watson coming back mid-season, hopefully, like he's already talking, like, if this was the NFC Championship game, I'd be back tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God, he's that much of the athlete, like that much of a grinder. So like, that's having him with Golden, having a healthy Jaden Reed, having Romeo Doubs, like Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, like, oh my God, like, try to stop one guy, that's fine. They'll find a million other guys to throw the ball to. Like, so this offense has so much potential, and they're not there yet. And that, like, the fact that they're already dominating games on defense, and this offense is growing and growing and going to get even better. Like, before the season, I was kind of like, they'll be pretty good once they got Parsons and everything. I was gung ho, like, Super Bowl or bust. I haven't bought Madden in years. I'm thinking about my Madden again, because that's how much fun this team is.
It really, really is. We have some breaking news. The Cincinnati Bengals have figured out their quarterback situation, bringing in former Packers quarterback Sean Clifford to solve all of their problems. They're also bringing in quarterback Mike White. So no Malik Willis in Cincinnati, but they do get a former Packers quarterback in Sean Clifford. So adding a couple quarterbacks to that roster right now. Again, we're being joined by Steve Peratch, Pack a Day Podcast. You can find him again on social media at Steve Peratch. You mentioned Jaden Reed. Obviously, his injury has been one of the bigger bummers of these first couple weeks of the season. How do you feel like Green Bay should go about replacing him?
I mean, I think it's kind of the way that Green Bay does things. Next man up. They're not going to go out and, I was asked, I'd jump on a radio station down in Alabama every once in a while and do some Packers stuff for them. And they're like, well, what do you do without Jaden Reed? Like, are they going to go trade for Tyreek Hill? I was like, no, absolutely. Like, first of all, they used their first round draft picks. Like, those are gone. So I don't foresee them bringing in a big name wide receiver. That's just, for the most part, not their style outside the Parsons trade. But I think you move Matthew Golden up, like you want Savion Williams, or you're going to get him more involved. Continue to do Dobbs and Wicks and Musgrave and Kraft. Like, you're good. You're good. Like, this Packers offense can sustain. Like, they have the depth at wide receiver to sustain an injury. Like, so hopefully as long as there's no more, knock on wood, then they should be fine. Yeah,
I think so too. And if there's a position, again, kind of like you're saying, that they have the ability to kind of make up for it, it's probably at that wide receiver position. I'd see, before we get you out of here, Packers Browns prediction for the game. How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel great. I think it's not an easy win because road ones are always a little tougher, but I think that's a win for the Packers. I'd go like 30-14.
Okay. I'm loving it. I think they should go out and dominate. It's first road game of the season. People say trap game. I don't think it's really a trap game. I think it is their first road game. It's not like they're like, maybe Micah Parsons is looking ahead to Dallas a little bit, but I don't think they're like, oh my God, Dallas is around the corner. I think they're going to be fine in this one too. Whether they cover or not, I don't know. I don't care, but I think they're going to win in this one at the end of the day. And that's what I most care about. I don't think we're going to see some sort of crazy upset by Cleveland. I just don't think they're going to be able to put the points up that they're going to need in order to hang with Green Bay in this one. So hopefully it should be a fun one for Green Bay. Steve, I cannot thank you enough. Everything you do coming on here today, and then also for the Pack a Day podcast every single week. Tell us about where we can find all your incredible work.
Oh yeah, I did all my incredible work. No, just you can follow me on for sarcastic comments and all sorts of stuff on Twitter. It's at Steve Peratch. But then we do Pack a Day podcast every Wednesday. Our episode is released with Dusty and Sarah, and so always a good time. Just lots of Packers talk, hijinks, and Oreo conversations. So feel free to tune in anytime you can.
It is the absolute best. I cannot appreciate you enough. I will certainly be tuning in this week, as I always do, with the three of you who do such an incredible job. Steve, I will talk to you soon. Enjoy your day. And again, we'll hopefully be able to catch up here in the very near future.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you, my friend. That is Steve Peratch joining us again on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Make sure to follow him on social media at Steve Peratch. This is the Pack a Day Radio Show. More right after this. Welcome back to the Pack a Day Radio Show. We are live on the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, and powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. We've got a lot more to get to here. Of course, a huge thank you to Steve Peratch for joining us this past segment. Follow him at Steve Peratch. And we've also got Mitch Nellis, Mason Crosby coming up next from 9 to 11 right here on the Fan. So make sure you're sticking around for that. Tommy, you've got a leadoff show coming up today and a Brewers team that we want to see start picking up some wins and getting on the right foot right before the start of the postseason.
Yeah, Brewer game today, kicking off the series with the Angels. And we are on the road again. We are at the Brauhaus in Shorewood, so that'll be a fun time. Angels, you got to take care of business, Andy. I mean, just quite frankly, like, got to sweep. Feels like at this point, not just 2 out of 3, got a sweep. I mean, you're a game and a half up now on Philadelphia, who just clinched up the NL East. I feel like the tone of the season changes quite a bit if you lose the 1 seed in the last 2 weeks of the year versus being the 1 seed to close out the season. The Brewers have been atop the MLB now for, feels like, almost over half of the year, and at the end to lose it all feels like it'd be a lot of air out of the balloon.
It really would. We certainly don't want to see that game and a half up, as you mentioned, with not much season left. We got 4 series left. So they did not play Philly, obviously. Do we know who is the tiebreaker on that?
The Brewers have the tiebreaker over Philadelphia. Okay. Yep.
Beautiful.
So maybe it's
helpful.
like 2 games, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully they can take care of business. But yes, picking up some wins against LA would be a great way to do that. They've got Peralta, Woodruff, and Priester. So that's exactly who you want, kind of coming up to hopefully take care of business against a team that's not exactly, tearing the baseball or tearing the cover off the baseball in LA. So yeah, this has the makings of a get right series, but if it's not, then you almost get a little bit more concerned of where things are at. So I have no overall concern, but it would be really nice if they could at least wrap up that number 1 seed. Now, obviously not this week, but but by the end of the season, wrap up that number 1 seed in the NL.
Completely agree.
All right, let's get to our Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day.
You got to do some smart thinking.
It's time for Andy Herman's final thought of the day.
What are you thinking?
Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What the hell were you thinking?
You're listening to the Pack a Day Radio Show on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan.
One of our first, our very first comment from today that came in right at 8 o'clock a.m. was from Pale Shelter. Said Bengals reportedly offered a 6th-round pick for Malik Willis that can't possibly have been a serious offer, right? I also heard that there was another team that had offered a 5th-round pick at some point, but no, this is probably right around where the range is for Malik Willis and what teams are specifically willing to offer. Green Bay got him for a 7th-round pick. He's played well. I think what you have to remember is that a team that's trading for him as of right now is just trading for him for the remainder of this season. There's no contract after this. So you would have to sign him to a deal in the, in free agency or get, convince him to stay in some real way. So you're just trading for, 14 games of Malik Willis at this point, which is why I see some people saying of like, hey, if you can get something in return from Malik Willis, like maybe you should think about it. My final thought today is I don't want to hear another conversation about Green Bay trading anybody away at this point, unless said conversation is about like, hey, they have the ability to get a top defensive tackle. And I don't even know that they need that at this point, the way that the defensive tackles have played, but like a top player at a position, whether it's corner, defensive tackle, offensive lineman, something like that, wide receiver, where like, yeah, we can give up something else. If you're like giving up Romeo Doubs and like a 3rd for a better wide receiver, sure. We can have those conversations. But outside of that, any player that is on this roster right now that you're like, hey, they can get a 5th or 6th round pick. No, absolutely not. It goes back to the conversation we had at the very beginning of today's show. You need depth all throughout the course of the season. They're going to already at wide receiver for the people that are like, yeah, definitely trade away Romeo Doubs. Get what you can now. He's going to be a free agent in the offseason. Right now, with Jaden Reed out, Christian Watson not back yet, if there's no Romeo Doubs, yeah, you might be able to get by with Dontavian Wicks and Savion Williams and Matthew Golden, Malik Heath for maybe these couple games, at least against Cleveland. Maybe you can get by with Dallas as well. But man, I feel a whole heck of a lot better having Romeo Doubs out there as well. I would feel very, a lot more shaky at wide receiver if he wasn't able to go. And Doubs arguably has been Green Bay's best receiver through the first 2 weeks of the season as well. So I don't want to hear Malik Willis, Romeo Doubs enter. I saw some Quay Walker stuff as well. I don't want to hear any of it. This is a team that is competing for a Super Bowl right here and right now. Any trade conversation should not be players going out. It should be, are there any other positions that you can buoy on this team and make even better for where you're at right now? So again, if it's a player swap where, again, you're trading from a position of strength to an area of weakness and you're getting a player in return that's going to help you a lot, absolutely more than happy to have those conversations. And I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, Green Bay should be looking at, are there players out there that can help this team, even in the margins, even if it's slightly better, even if it's just a punt returner, if you add a fullback, I don't care what the heck that it is, but if you can add something that can help this team, that's the conversations that I want to be having. Tommy, I have no interest in any sort of discussions for any player outgoing on the a sixth round pick in 2026 doesn't do me a whole hell of a lot on my path to the Super Bowl right now.
No, completely agree, Andy. The team looks awesome the way it is. The depth looks awesome the way it is. Why change anything up? I think it's all smoke and mirrors. Thank you for your service, Sean Clifford, I guess, with the Green Bay Packers. But yeah, that losing a piece like that, not really much to note on. But everyone else, like Quay Walker, just keep him around for the year. Even if an extension doesn't get done, it does more for you to keep him around for 1 year than to take a flyer on a fifth later on, which also probably not a fair trade already for Quay Walker based on the expectations you have to play for him. He's a former first-round pick. Like, I know he's not Fred Warner or Edgerrin Cooper. He's not even the best middle linebacker on his team. I get that, but like, he's absolutely worthy of playing like a third-round caliber of player, which is going to be more valuable this season for you than anyone else. And I think, Andy, if they had some level of confidence in Tyron Hopper, maybe there would be potential of it, but I don't even know if we've said his name at all, other than the face mask penalty on the punt play like a week ago. So no, I think
one snap on defense so far.
Yeah. He has played Micah Parsons' number of snaps. yeah. I have no interest in any movement off of Quay Walker.
No, nor anybody at this point in time. And I get like the theory behind, like, so Malik Willis, let's see if some team calls with like a top 100 pick, right? And is like, you know what, we want to be in the Malik Willis business. We're willing to give you a top 100 pick in return. Sure, if it's a top 100 pick, I'll consider it and then see what I can use that top 100 pick on to go improve my roster somewhere else. But I need to know that I have a backup quarterback somewhere, somehow. Like, I can't just trade away. And this is like, look at Cincinnati right now, by the way. Cincinnati's calling around. From there are reports that they called around for Andy Dalton. There's reports that they called around for Kirk Cousins, Malik Willis. And what they had to settle on at this point of the season for a team that lost their starting quarterback, by the way, not lost a backup quarterback, a team that lost its starting quarterback, they had to settle on Sean Clifford and Mike White. That's what they ultimately decided they could get in at this point in time to try to help their football team. If you go down with an injury and need to go quarterback shopping, it's non-existent. You cannot find a quarterback at this point in time. So you celebrate the fact that you have the depth that you need at that particular position, and you certainly do not let it go for anything. And again, the logic is, hey, Malik Willis is going to leave in free agency. He's probably not going to sign for that big of a deal anywhere. So you maybe get a 6th round comp pick in return. Not to mention, you probably have so many other people leaving that you might not, because you can only get 4 comp picks. You might not even get that 6th round pick. Your hope and desire is that Malik Willis does not play a single snap for you this entire season. So what you're trying to do is like, hey, if we can get something now, we're not going to get it later, and we hope he doesn't even play for us in the first place. All right, let's maybe do it. No, you're probably, even if you don't need him, having that insurance policy is far more valuable than a 5th, 6th round pick. And here's ultimately where this comes down to, right? Any team that's going to offer something for Malik Willis is not going to come anywhere close to whetting the Packers' appetite to potentially accept that trade. A 5th or 6th round deal, or 6th round pick for Willis, Green Bay's just like, why are we going to do that? We're just going to certainly hold on to our guy. And no team is offering a 2nd or 3rd round pick for Malik Willis that Green Bay would have to at least be like, all right, we need to have a conversation about this. So it's a non-starter. I do not see Malik Willis going anywhere. I don't think he should go anywhere. And again, my final thought is, unless a player is being traded for a upgraded version of themselves, or you're trading a player from a position of strength to a position of weakness and picking up a player at a different spot that's really going to help your team more, I don't want to have any trade discussions for any sort of future draft picks at this point in time. This is a team that's ready to compete for a Super Bowl right here and right now. Tommy, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just have everyone just have a great Tuesday. Just have a great Tuesday. That's my final thought.
Everyone should go have a great Tuesday. It's a great day to be a Green Bay Packers fan. It's a great time to be involved in the Packers in any way, shape, or form. Things are trending in the right direction. What could possibly go wrong, Tommy? No, I'm very confident. We have a fun Brewers team, a fun Packers team, and it's a great time to be a Wisconsin sports fan. Huge thank you to Tommy every single day, bringing his A game. Stay tuned for that Mason Crosby show with Mitch and Ellis coming up next from 9 to 11 right here on The Fan. You, of course, can find the Pack a Day podcast 365 days a year, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow with Grant Bills. This has been the Pack a Day radio show. Enjoy that Tuesday, and of course, go Pack Go.